What is up, YouTube? High Tech Lab here, down at our water well today. We've had some changes since the last video I made on this called Off-Grid Water Supply. If you haven't seen that video, check it out, card in the top right corner. So what I have here is I have an Onan generator. This is a Marquise 7000. Here's all your nameplate data. This is actually out of a motor home that we got a perfectly good generator out of it and pull it down here. One thing to take note of is it's 120 volts at 56.7 amps. Now, this well here, this one right here, is 540 feet deep, and there's a 3 horsepower pump at the bottom, and it has 1.25 inch PVC pipe coming up, and then control box at the top. This is semi-temporary. We would like to pour a bigger concrete pad eventually and have this all indoors. But pretty much what I have here is I have a 6-gallon gas tank, feeds the generator, and then from there, our power comes out through this seal tight right here and goes into the box. I have an auto transformer around the back, and on the label of that auto transformer, this here is a Solar Edge TX 5000 split phase auto transformer. It's 5 kVA, 240 volts AC, pretty much turns in this application 120 volts into 240 volts. And even though it's only a 5 kVA, that means it's only producing or transforming 5 kVA on the second leg. So you really get 10 kVA at 240 volts because it's only dealing with half the power. So that's wired in through an SO cord into the control box, and I'm gonna get some gas in this tank and fire it up and show you what we have going on. So before I get any deeper into this, I want to mention we're here in the meadow. The hilltop is up there. It's about 1,600 feet if you measure on Google Maps from here to the top of the hill. So we haul all of our water in the truck. I want to show you this, and I'll be talking about it a bit more later. So the water comes out of the well through this pipe right here and goes into this T. And we have one hose that comes around and circles around and goes up to the top of the tank and fills the tank. Now I have this T and this valve right here because I'm going to open this valve. And you may hear a little bit of water flowing through, but what this does is it dumps the water. Because when you start the well, when it first starts pumping, you get dirty water. I'll show you that here in a second. But we don't want to get all that dirty water in our tanks and stuff, so we just dump it out at the very beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the start button on this generator, which actually we're in summer mode now. We're going to let it warm up for a quick second, and then we'll transfer over and power off the generator. And here we go. And now, if you take note, we'll come over here. Well is running, coming through and going this way. And we should be getting water out the end of this hose, which then just goes down the dirt. I'll move this so you can see better. Now this is still the water from in the pipe that was pumping last time, but if you give it a minute, it'll get dirty. I'll show you that right now. This is the first bit of dirty water coming out of the well. I'm not sure how well you can see. So we're gonna let this run for a good minute, probably 15 to 20 minutes, just because I'm gonna go to the top of the hill and prepare more, but this will just flush out. But what my plan for the future is when we build a well house down here and have piping up to the top of the hill, I'll get a two-way, I don't know the technical term, but it's for a swimming pool. It's an electronically actuated valve, and that will be able to go to divert the water, and then I'll have it set up with a PLC. When it no longer diverts, it goes to the other side and it'll pipe up to the top of the hill. So here we are at the top of the hill, and one of the things I want to take a quick second to talk about that makes our life much easier are these Camlock fittings here. So instead of threading on your hoses or pipes or whatever, these allow for a quick connect type fitting. Now, one thing I did on this pump, normally these pumps come with the suction facing toward the rear, and the discharge goes out the side. However, what I did on this pump was I removed these 4 bolts over here and turned this toward the back, because I created this valve body. Now these are never lube Jandy valves like you might see in a pool, and I made a valve body here, kind of a reversing type setup. So as you can see, there's some plumbing involved in here, and what this does is this comes, and what this allows me to do is I can simply put this on this pump like so, and as you can see, now all I need to do is tighten these latches and tighten the ones on the other side as well. And now that is locked on and sealed and ready to pump water. Now another thing we did with these Camlock fittings, one way to do this is you have a male on one end and female on the other. But what I've done different that some people do, some people don't. I know a lot of fuel trucks do this. I actually learned this watching a video on a fuel truck fueling system. I have male Camlocks on all of my tanks, devices, even over here on this water pump deal. Everything is a male Camlock, everything's male. And I make all my hoses female, because typically you're connecting things together with hoses. So if I jump up here in the truck, I can take this hose, okay, connect it onto the tank, like so. And I don't need to worry about directions, because since both ends of the hose are the same, it's unidirectional. Now I can just take this hose and just push it on and lock it in. And this is the added benefit of having females on both ends of the hoses, is if you're in a pinch, you need to know what's on the spigot and what's on the hose. It's always the same. So it's easy to grab the right thing every time. So now that I have this hose installed, I can open this valve here on the tank. That's good to go. I just need to put some straps on this pump. And the way these valves work is the handle points in the direction you want to go. So the top is discharge, so the water's coming out of the pump this way and going into the pump this way. So if I want to discharge out, I just move this valve this way, and this is the suction where the water's coming from. So this valve is pointing to the tank. If I want to then suck water in from this side and put it into the tank, then I would change the top to discharge to the tank and have the bottom suck from whatever on this side. So instead of flipping hoses around on inlet and outlet of the pump, you just flip valves and it saves a bunch of time. So here we are, all hooked up, tied in, strapped down, ready to go. And what's really cool about this setup is now we've created a 325-gallon tank in the truck that we can fill with water, gas pump. So one of the things we do have is we have a fire hose that connects on here. So in case there is a fire here on the property, we have a pretty awesome system to fight that if we so choose so. We could also use it to water down the hill. This is actually May in California. The hill's already turned brown and dried out, so that's where this setup also serves a second purpose to help protect the property. I also have a piece that comes out and goes flat, and it's a sprayer, so this could be like a water truck and spray out all behind. So now we'll go down to the meadow and start filling that water tank, and I'll show you the process of getting water to the top of the hill. So as you can see, the water has significantly cleared up, way better. So now we're gonna come down over here to where that T is down at the well, and we're gonna close this valve. So now the water is going this way through this hose, and we begin filling the tank. So let's talk about this tank real quick. This is a white plastic tank from Tractor Supply. It's 1,500 gallons, and the issue we originally had was the sun would shine into the tank and cause the water to turn greenish, just allow bacteria to grow. Now, black tanks are the best tanks for water storage for potable water. So what we did is we actually painted this tank black and then tan over top of it. So that blocked any light coming through so that it stays relatively clean inside. But we try not to keep water in here. We try to keep it empty when it's not in use and only have the freshest water in here. I'm gonna go ahead and take this hose. I'm gonna bring it over and connect it on, and go ahead and latch down these cam locks. A little difficult one-handed, but oh well. Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and open the valve. Okay, so that's open. Now I want to discharge the water into the tank, so the discharge valve at the top I'm gonna have pointing that way, and the suction valve at the bottom I'm gonna turn this way, indicating I'm sucking from this side, from the water tank. I'm then gonna go ahead and turn on the kill switch on the pump, give it some throttle, and start it. I know it's a little noisy, but then I'll go ahead and lift up this hose and it'll get some water flowing into the pump. And as you can see, the tank, there's a little strip there that you can see the water moving, and you'll see there's water splashing around in there. So I'll then keep an eye on this tank, and as soon as it's reaching full, as you can see with the little strip that right there, it's getting there. As soon as that's full, and there's a strip where it was masked off when it was painted, I'll go ahead and idle down the water pump and shut it off. Now it's not as noisy, thankfully. I'll go ahead and close this valve right here, and then I like to put both valves, as you can see there's the off position, so I like to shut off here and turn this one as well, and now this is off. So now it's only ports are open to the tank, so we can push in these pins and disconnect this Camlock fitting, remove this, drag it out of the way, and then drive up to the hill and continue with the rest. So here we are at the top of the hill in the pump room. This is a shed, I believe, from Costco. You may recognize it. And this is located right next to two 2,500 gallon water tanks. Now these were black water tanks, and we painted them tan because the black would absorb a ton of heat. And I'll go over the plumbing here in a second, but we painted them and they are working much better at staying cool. So checking out over here, we have our hose right here, and this I'll connect onto the pump and change the valves to discharge out this way. I'll go over that in a second. But here on the room we have two valves, and that's because if we come through the top pipe, bear in mind I have a little bit of junk here, but no big deal, it comes through, and it actually, I have a pool pump here. I got this on sale at Lowe's for ridiculously cheap. It's a 2-speed. It's wired in up here to the switch, but the water will come in through here, through the pump, and then go into this pool filter. Now this I actually picked up on Amazon for a really good deal. A couple of things happen. It either can come out of this T and go back through that bottom pipe and out the building. So if we need to pump water from the tanks out, we can. Or it can come through this way, through this ball valve and out there, and that goes to the tanks. This pipe section right here, that's just a dump. It goes out the back of the building into the dirt, and that's to empty the water out of this filter when we want to open it up and change it. This pipe here on the left coming from outside, that's the bottom of the tanks, that's the water outlet. So we come up to a 2-inch T with a 1-inch, it comes out 1 inch, goes into a ball valve, a union, and then through a 90. Now these this was temporary, but temporary turned into long term. And then it goes into a sediment filter. And then I have two of these pumps. Now these are actually from Harbor Freight. They actually work impressively well. These have been going for well over a year. We have a check valve right here that only allows water to go this way. So when these pumps kick on, they have a pressure switch right here and a meter over here to show the water pressure. It's pumping water and either out the top to whatever you're trying to feed, or there's a hose right here where it then pumps into the tank in the bottom, and that's a pressure bladder. Approximately 2 gallons, 2 to 3 gallons it'll hold, and it's actually, there's a air fitting here at the back where you can put it under pressure, and that just keeps the pump from cycling on and off multiple times. Now this one right here feeds straight out a hose, and that goes to Mom's garden and the trailer and stuff for her. And then we have this pump right here, same setup with a check valve, comes out of this hose because it was kind of an awkward situation plumbing it, and these filters I do plan to change. Goes through a 20 micron filter and then a 5 micron filter, and then has the manifold going out to the laundry room and my trailer. Now jumping back over here, what we can do on the other side of this T is come out the top and come over through this pipe, and I can open this ball valve and then suck water in through the pool pump. And then what that allows me to do is I can filter the water in the tanks. That way it gets extra clean and get all the dirt out of the tanks. If the pump wasn't available, the hose could simply be connected right onto the water tank, and I can use this electric pump to suck the water out. And this is wired in. This is a 2-speed pump, so it has a low and a high. So I have a 3-way switch right here wired in. One direction is the low, one direction is the high. And then this is a 2-pole switch. So your two hots come in. One of the hots jumps over to the speed selector. The other hot goes down to the pump, and works out very nicely. In this shed, I lined all the walls with plywood because trying to screw anything electrical or whatnot into the plastic wasn't really a good idea. These are the shelves that came with the shed, and they were originally designed to go across the back, but that didn't really work out for how I wanted to lay this out with the conduit and stuff. So I just used my skill saw and cut them in half, and I had these L brackets sitting around the shop and then used those to support them. So that works out nicely. This is wired in 1/2-inch EMT, and I have a SO cord coming in through here. That's this black one, and that comes into here, and you'll notice this is mounted horizontal. Now, one thing that is a thing in the code book is your breakers, the on, can either be up or side to side. So this top row of this panel cannot legally be used in this horizontal configuration. I only have one more or two more spaces I can use in this panel. But it comes out in these 3 pieces of EMT. I have my light switch here and a convenience outlet, and that light switch comes out through this top conduit to that outlet and turns on this 4-foot LED shop light. Then I have the second conduit comes out for the pool pump, and the third conduit is 2 dedicated circuits for these shallow well pumps. They're actually shallow well pumps, not just water pumps. I'll have more information on that in the description. And from there we come outside to these pipes right here, and you can see the black hose that feeds the laundry room right there. The 2 white pipes come, and then I have my suction at the bottom, so I can either open or close the bottom of the tanks to suck individually from the tanks, or have them both open and suck from both of them. And then the return water coming to the tanks comes from the top line, goes up, and then I have this interesting deal right here where I can fill individually the tanks. Now you'll notice this tank on the left is sitting on cinder blocks. I had to do that because I wanted the top of the tanks to match in height. That way, if they are just sharing through like they are right now, they can both be filled to the top. Otherwise, if this one were lower and they were sharing through, if this tank were full, it would come down and feed through and overflow the second tank. So that's the reason for having it sitting on cinder blocks. So now with this hose connected on, I can set my top valve to send water out, my bottom valve to suck water from the tank, and I can go ahead and start this pump and go ahead and begin emptying this tank. So with that water pump running, the water's coming in through here, and you can see in here there is water moving. And if we look at our filter, we don't have very much pressure. So filter's still nice and clean. And here looking at the top of the tank, you can see ran out of gas. Just ran out of gas, switched over to the electric pump. But as you can see, there is plenty of water coming in here, and the tank is nearing full. We're at probably about 4,000 gallons of water between both tanks. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this, and here shortly, a couple more trips up the hill, and we will be completely full. Some of the questions you may have are, where were these water tanks purchased? These are from Tractor Supply Company. The water pump is from Harbor Freight and actually is working impressively well. The valves were from Amazon. The Camlock Fittings all came from Tractor Supply as well. This water tank from Tractor Supply, that's 325 gallons. This pump fills and empties it. It empties it in about 4 minutes and fills it in about 3, because emptying it, it goes through the filter. The well is 540 feet deep, and when we first drilled it, we applied 125 psi of compressed air on a 1¼ inch drill steel, and that was yielding 80 gallons per minute. However, with the pump set, we were only getting 16 gallons per minute on a 3 horsepower pump. Plans for the future are to eventually have that tan tank that was in the meadow placed right here, and the 2-inch pipe feeding up the hill will fill that tank with potentially dirty water. I'll then have the pool pump suck the water out of there, run it through the filter and into the other tanks. I'm going to put a PLC panel in here to control all this, connected through Ethernet to the other PLCs and the new HMI panel I'll be getting here in a week. And then I do need pressure sensors on both of these pumps, because if for some reason we run out of water, they'll run dry until they burn up. We haven't had that happen yet, but Mom wants to add automatic garden watering, and if that can take place while nobody's here, these pumps can run dry and just burn themselves up. So I'll be adding, like I said, pressure sensors on these pumps tied into the PLC. This pump will be able to be controlled by the PLC. I'll also have sensors on these water tanks monitoring the water levels. So when the tanks start getting low, let's say, we'll have an automatic valve here switching between tanks, and same up here for filling them. But we can have it say, okay, if you have 600 gallons of water left, do not continue the automatic watering and stuff like that. There's a world of opportunity, and we'll get into that later on the channel. So if you like this video and can't wait to see the new features coming up, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon for notifications when I upload new videos. You've been watching High Tech Lab today. I've enjoyed making this video. I'm sure you've enjoyed watching if you've made it this far. Be sure to leave a thumbs up if that is the case. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.